This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
At the risk, Stugotz, of being Jay Glazer, the latest person in sports who has outraged you on the internet, because one of the things you miss the most about sports is the ability to outrage the person next to you about something a sports media member has done. I have breaking sports news. Now, Jay Glazer got the sports audience mad because he said he had big news, big scoopage, and that 24 hours later he reported that the center for the Rams had become the first player to test positive. I do believe that's big news. The internet did not. The internet wanted to know if Jay Glazer would be kind enough to report that Odell Beckham had been traded or some such thing, as if he'd hold that for 24 hours.
Already forgotten because Von Miller has self-reported that he has COVID-19.
That's right. Von Miller says he's feeling fine, but he is tested positive.
I thought when Jay sent the original tweet out, it was going to be like Cam Newton to the Patriots. That's what I thought.
Well,
okay?
I really do feel like that part of the backlash that Glazer got, and people did such a wonderful pivoting job of sort of wrapping it in the illness and how unseemly it is. And I could agree with that part. The idea of saying 24 hours from now, I'm going to tell you someone is ill. But I don't think that that's the initial instinct of people. I think they heard Glazer say he had big news. They were expectant with the big news, and then they were disappointed when the big news wasn't a transaction. It was just a human life and health. And we need to get our priorities in order when it comes to that stuff. Put it on the poll, Guillermo, at Le Batard Show. Is the football transaction more important than the football human body?
I'm sure he was doing it out of respect to the person who had tested positive. He can't have the Cam Newton news. People don't realize this. He's not going to sit on that for 24 hours because within an hour, Adam Schefter is stealing that news from him. That's the way
correct.
It works. Yeah.
That is the way that it works, Stugotz. And we will get to this breaking news in a second, but I've got a couple of other things to tell you. Business Insider is reporting that horse semen can be one of the most expensive liquids on the planet. And the first paragraph of that story is a gallon of Big Star's gold medal winning semen. Just wanted to let that sit there for a minute, is worth almost $5 million, and that's nowhere near the most expensive. Depending on the stallion, collected semen samples can reach 8-figure values, Stugotz. I know people probably know some of that as it relates to stallions, but $5 million for a gallon of semen. That's not the breaking news that I have for you, though.
Good.
We have what is rare these times, Stugotz. It's hard to come by because there's very little sports. This is not breaking news about a transaction or something going on around sports. This is breaking news from the world of active sports. So you can imagine how limited this is going to be, right? So that we've had, I mean, Kyle Lawson did us the favor of somehow giving us news and he had to do racism in order to give it to us, but he did us the favor in this climate of giving us some news. And here is Mike with, this is how dried up our landscape is. This is actual and real breaking sports news.
Guys, Gary Anderson has withdrawn from the Pro Dart Championships home tour because his Wi-Fi connection is not strong enough.
No way.
Yes, Stugotz. Yes, he has withdrawn. Bad Wi-Fi. Who do we blame?
I mean, we're talking about a two-time champion here.
Who do we blame? Whose fault is it? Did he choke? So what are they doing? They're just doing darts on Zoom? They're doing darts on remote?
Look, we could do horse with technology aiding, so we can certainly play darts, but Gary Anderson, the two-time world champion, is out because of spotty Wi-Fi.
Also, Stugotz, we've got one of our strangest beefs ever. We are a show that beefs creatively with King Kong Bundy and the Memphis Grizzlies. We have any number of people. We've made Allison's job very hard over the years because people don't like coming on with us and people beef with us. But we have got what I believe to be one of the most delightful and lamest beefs you've ever seen, because it would appear, if you were listening yesterday, Mike Ryan told you about what was the Isolation Wrestling League. It is a wrestling league that has popped up. Did I get their name wrong?
You are not helping your cause, Dan Le Batard. It's the Isolation Wrestling Federation.
Excuse me.
It's the world's first no-contact wrestling federation.
Okay, yes, I'm sorry. So Mike Ryan told you about this yesterday, and basically all it is, Stugotz, is a bunch of guys having developed wrestling personas who give interviews but never do any actual wrestling. It's just they are escalating tensions, but the tensions will never be decided in a fight. No one will win or lose. They're just doing wrestling interviews.
They are the Kevin Garnetts of the wrestling world.
The entire Isolation Wrestling Federation, though, the entire stable, Stugotz, is now feuding with us and our show and our listeners because we have asked our listeners to create some wrestling promos themselves. We've got to come up with that.
No, you just straight up stole their idea, Dan. That's a nice way of couching what happened.
While crediting them.
You straight up threatened to steal their idea, and their stable of talent is not happy, Dan.
Okay, yes, their stable of talent, Stugotz, is now attacking us, and Chris Cody is getting some of the sound. I did like, there was a character, a demonic character, Mr. Horoscope.
Oh my God, you can't stop insulting these people. Dr. Horoscope.
Excuse me.
You didn't spend 7 years in evil residencies just so you can call him Mr. Horoscope.
I mean, you are up to $54 at fines this first segment.
Dr. Horoscope is a magical character. We'll describe him to you in just a second. But Stugotz, in keeping with what it is that I was telling you about, basically in sports, we miss the ability to be more outraged than the next person about something an athlete did or something an athlete said. And today, and this has to be happening to everybody. You get up in the morning and you're like, why is that person trending? Yesterday was Dennis Miller. Dennis Miller went on Hannity for the first time in 3 years, and so that's the thing that's trending that morning. But I'm guessing that most people at this point, if you see somebody trending, you think they've died. At Le Batard Show, put this on the poll, Guillermo, at Le Batard Show. When you see somebody trending, do you immediately worry that they've died? But today, it was Richard Dawson. And what people are getting upset about, and the reason that he's trending, and this is wonderful, is retroactive by 40 years, getting mad at the fact that he would kiss game show contestants on the lips. Like
oh, come on!
No, there are any number of people who didn't know that he did that, and he did it famously. He did it lecherously. It's almost as famous as the phallic mic that he used to have in that match game. And yes, he is considered the greatest smarmy, leathery, oily, car salesman, greasy, kisser of women in the history of television. Like that guy would do nothing but kiss every woman's mouth, and he put it on television. And I'm curious. Oh, I'm sorry. That's a big fine, Stu.
It is.
Roy just texted me that it was Gene Rayburn that was the host of Match Game. That's right. Richard Dawson was only a guest on Match Game. I'm so very sorry. I'm sorry that my Match Game information was slightly off.
Let's just make it an even 100, okay?
Thank you, Stugotz. Always appreciate it. So Richard Dawson, though, retroactively, people are getting bothered. And what would you think if I told you Richard Dawson dead or alive?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I'm going to say dead. I think Richard Dawson's dead. I think he's been dead for quite some time, no?
Congratulations. You just risked $50 right there because the wrong answer would have gotten you fined $50. But you are correct, Stugotz. Richard Dawson has been dead for 8 years, but it did not stop the internet from getting angry. He's been dead for 8
How can you cancel someone that Earth canceled?
I got to tell you, that felt good. I felt alive again. I had a $50 bet on Richard Dawson.
Wait, John Wayne also got posthumously canceled.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Can you be canceled if you've been dead for 8 years? At Le Batard Show.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, making it easy to bundle your home and car insurance. Will Oregon guard Sabrina Ionescu go number one? Tune in to find out. The WNBA draft tonight, 7 Eastern, on ESPN and the ESPN app. Here's your SportsCenter update. Von Miller has announced that he has tested positive for the coronavirus. He's the second active NFL player to publicly admit to a positive result. Mike Conley defeated Zach LaVine to win the final round of the NBA Horse Challenge. Conley's victory netted more than $200,000 in support of coronavirus response efforts. SportsCenter is brought to you by Advance Auto Parts. Think ahead, think advance. At any time, 1 in 4 batteries is about to fail. Get a free battery test and free installation with any automotive battery purchase only at Advance Auto Parts. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
An auto policy from State Farm gets you collision coverage. And this radio ad from State Farm gets you coverage of this beloved 90s hit.
I hit a car. I hit a car. I hit a car. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. My agent's gonna help me.
For more coverage, visit statefarm.com.
Stugotz here. Support for the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Home today is so much more than it was yesterday, but at Rocket Mortgage, home is still all about you. During these challenging times, the top priority at Rocket Mortgage is the health and safety of the communities they serve. If you need mortgage assistance, their team is available 24/7 to answer questions and offer solutions. Whether that means saving money on your mortgage or finding a new way to navigate payments from their home to yours, the team at Rocket Mortgage is with you. Visit rocketmortgage.com/LeBatard to learn more. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number is 3030.
Stugotz, it's gotten stuck in my head. This song, I'm wandering around the house with I can't read and I can't spell. Tell me the same thing has happened to you, because we need to get video of you wandering around your house with this song stuck in your head. I can't read and I can't spell.
It's happening to me as well, Dan. I will have Abby record me singing it throughout the weekend, okay? It's the third season of Detail, the groundbreaking sports analysis program. It's beautiful. It's my anthem. I love it. The groundbreaking sports analysis program, brought to you by Granity Studios, continues with a college football edition hosted by legendary Alabama head coach Nick Saban exclusively on ESPN+. As the series continues in expansion into new sports, Saban, who has won a record-tying 6 college football national championships, joins the Detail lineup that includes NBA legend Kobe Bryant on basketball, 2-time Super Bowl champion Peyton Manning analyzing NFL quarterbacks, and UFC 2-division champion Daniel Cormier breaking down top UFC fighters. 2 new episodes of Detail are now available, featuring Nick Saban previewing projected first-round picks, LSU's Joe Burrow and Tua, exclusively on ESPN+.
Guillermo, put it on the poll, please. Are you wandering around your house singing I can't read and I can't spell? I am stunned here, Stugotz, that Yahoo Sports here has broken a story that ESPN should have broken. This is now I'm using story very loosely here because it's just a whole bunch of speculation, but this is absolutely a speculation that ESPN should have had weeks ago. While Jay Williams was saying that we should finish the NBA season on cruise ships, okay?
Yep.
And good God, the article in Bloomberg on Carnival and cruise ships is a punch in the gut when you read it. It felt like Succession and the cruise division, where you're reading this article on Carnival Cruise Lines, and you're seeing a lot of reporting on 1,500 positive cases, and the party continuing. Whole lot of people got this one wrong, Stugotz, in a way that is hugely embarrassing and has us all sort of wanting to find a place to put blame, because it seems a whole lot of people had information and ignored it. And our country, we're number one again. Like, we had plenty of time to prepare for all this. We had plenty of precedent all over the globe, and we collected money. We continued to rake in money and behave the same way. We do sports blame all the time around here, Stugotz. We do sports blame all the time. This one is such an easy one to just wander around blaming a lack of American leadership up and down. Everybody.
I'll be right here if you want to do it. I mean, go ahead. Sit right here.
Yeah, well, we will, but I first have to get to this story that we should have broken, that Yahoo Sports broke, because they've got a solution on how to finish the NBA season. Walt Disney World. Walt Disney World is perfect, Stugotz, because you've got the hotel and the housing already. You've got the basketball facilities. You've got the bubble that you could create very easily. You could broadcast there with ease, and Disney and ESPN are starved for content, and we're partners with the NBA, and once again, the peninsula of Florida is an international embarrassment. We will welcome all of your disease in exchange for money.
So it's actually I'm surprised no one else has thought of that. You're right. That seems like a very plausible solution right there. If indeed ESPN and the NBA want to finish their NBA season, I kind of like that idea. It's certainly better than cruise ships. I kind of think maybe that's the solution right there. No fans, NBA playoffs inside of that theme park. That's actually, that's very smart.
Well, and they've got a bunch of sports adjacent facilities, but that is going to be so weird to watch, Stugotz. The end of an important NBA playoff game between the Lakers and Clippers that you care about in an AAU gym or an AAU environment, not even an AAU environment, because you won't even have the couple thousand people or the couple hundred people there.
No such thing as home court. Every game's a road game. These teams have built up home court throughout. Look at the Bucks regular season.
But it's going to feel like scrimmages. It's going to feel like just they happen to be wearing uniforms. Like it's going to be such a fascinating thing to witness if indeed they come back with no fans, Stugotz, because you're going to have almost all of the emotion sucked completely out of what you're watching, and you're going to realize how much fans have to do with that experience, because it's going to end up feeling like an NBA practice that is just super intense but is in like a private gym.
Right. I mean, we'll all be excited at home naturally because we're watching a live sporting event. It won't have the same feel. I discussed this the other day where I said I want these guys to have to go on the road and win big games. That's part of what it takes to win an NBA title. But in the absence of that, Dan, I think we'd all take it. Yes, it's going to be weird for the players, going to be weird for the fans. But in the absence of any other solution, I think we'll take that right now, no?
I think people will take anything right now because the alternative is a long way away.
Absolutely take anything. And one of the cool things, I guess, if you're trying to spin a positive, is you're going to be able to hear the chatter on the playing surface a lot better. There's no crowd noise, so maybe you amplify that in the wake of no actual emotion from the crowds. But I do think, especially with something on the lines, the players will get into it. The players get into it in their off-season workouts in these gyms privately. You always hear stories about how things get out of hand. So the competitive nature of the athletes is always going to be there. Yes, the crowd certainly adds to the drama and the moment. We have to reprogram ourselves. It's better than nothing.
Can they pipe in crowd noise? Because I know they do that at practice. So why can't you do it for an actual game?
Like a canned audience, like a sitcom. I think you'll have enough crowd noise from the people on the bench. Like,
yeah, but
there's going to be people there.
Finals game 1, that's a Bucks home game if indeed the Bucks make it there. And so every time they score, you hear cheers, and every time the other team does something bad, you hear everyone heckling and booing them.
I wonder maybe there is something that they could do in terms of giving the teams an advantage. Like they start 2 points up.
A soundtrack. Greg Norman is going to join us next. Advanced Auto Parts people.
The inflatable car dealership thing.
Like behind one of the baskets. Yeah, we'll have
when someone goes to free throws.
And an inflatable car dealership Gumby. Yes.
The new State Farm Drive Safe and Save app could get you a discount up to 30% for good driving. But this State Farm radio ad gets you a 100% discount on this classic.
If I could drive safe and save, would higher rates pass me by?
Get a discount up to 30% with Drive Safe and Save.
Just save some tonight.
Discounts may vary. Not available in all states.
ESPN Radio, excuse me. Whoa. Haven't had one of those in a while. Fought through it. Kind of. I owe you $5. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Missing basketball? Tune in tomorrow night for an NBA Classic. Game 6 of the 2019 NBA Finals between the Raptors and the Warriors. Presented by AutoZone. Coverage begins at 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We're expecting to have Greg Norman here in just a minute. Here's your SportsCenter update. Von Miller has announced that he has tested positive for the coronavirus. He's the second active NFL player to publicly admit to a positive result. Mike Conley defeated Zach LaVine to win the final round of the NBA Horse Challenge. Conley's victory netted more than $200,000 in support of coronavirus response efforts. And finally, documentary streaming service Magellan TV said it is seeking someone with a passion for all things true crime to document their 24-hour all-night crime watch on their social media channels. The chosen candidates will receive $1,000 and be given a pre-selected list of true crime documentaries to watch in a 24-hour period. The selected person will also receive a free year subscription to Magellan TV. SportsCenter brought to you by Blue Emu. From one of America's most trusted brands comes a new maximum strength arthritis pain relief cream. Blue Emu Maximum Arthritis Pain Relief is non-greasy, deep penetrating, and odor-free. Don't let joint pain strike you out. Reach for Blue Emu Maximum Arthritis Cream. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
All right, so our friend Greg Norman is back. He lives life much bigger than you or us, doing all sorts of amazing jaunts around the world, adventures, dangerous, perilous things, and we've asked him about a lot of that. And we haven't asked him a lot about golf, but I'd like to keep the questions a little looser this time. So thank you again for joining us, Greg. I imagine you are someone who has been to a nude beach. I don't know why I imagine that, but it's just something I think has happened. So
I have been to a nude beach. For sure.
Okay. And do you
I chuckle because that is a great first question of the Friday for TGIF guys.
Do you partake liberally in the nude beach? Will you go more than once? And because we've never had someone on our show admit to going to the nude beach and going nude to the nude beach.
Well, I have been nude. I wouldn't say at a nude beach. I would say I have been nude in certain areas, at public areas, because you feel comfortable doing it. And, I got on the ESPN body issue for that reason, right? You feel comfortable in your own skin, go for it. Why not?
Is that the reason? That's right, because you got into the body issue at what age? At 63, 64?
Yeah, 60. Yeah, I think it was 63, 64. Yeah, exactly. So look, it was one of the funnest shoots I've ever done too, guys. Quite honestly, we had an enormous crew, but the photographer was just phenomenal. His team people around were phenomenal, and at the end of the day, you got to feel very comfortable. It's like getting out of the shower in front of your wife. You're going to walk around, no big deal. You've seen one, you've seen them all.
Well, who's the guy, though, in the history of your career playing golf, who's the guy that you're like, that guy's a little too comfortable wandering around the clubhouse and the locker room totally nude? Because I've got Craig Stadler. I think
the
Stadler,
walrus.
Yeah, I think it's Stadler. He's got no problem wandering around naked. Am I wrong?
No, look, I've seen a lot of ugliness in the locker room for sure, but I've also seen a lot of studs as well, too. So it's always interesting. The guys you think might be, how could I put this correctly, well endowed, probably is not as well endowed as what you think, and they're the ones who wear a towel all the time.
I wasn't really talking about endowment. I was just sort of talking about personality types in the locker room. Did you have many, Greg, in your career, did you have many guys that you just simply didn't like? You might have been professional with them, but you didn't want to be around them at all.
Sure, absolutely. Chemistry, whether it's on the golf course or off the golf course, the topic of conversations, your point of views, absolutely you have that. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Opinions are like everybody's got one, so you got to respect it. So, the tough one was on the golf course when you teed it up and you're with somebody who you knew didn't like you and you didn't like them. Now you got to cocoon yourself for 4.5, 5 hours during the day to make sure you keep your concentration and focus. But, that didn't happen that often. Maybe there was not even a handful of guys that you wouldn't want to tee up against or play because of their attitude and their demeanor and stuff like that. So it had happened, but it wasn't that often.
Can you name one of them? Just one. Just one.
No, I cannot, actually.
Oh, I thought he was there. He was so close.
Anybody under the bus.
He was so close, Stugotz. Almost. You almost got him.
I was. You really got me there.
He was right there. He was going to tell us. Greg, you're doing an all-in challenge. 100% of the money raised is going to benefit organizations providing food to those in need. It's one of the best charity type of things you could do right now, food for those in need. What's the challenge that you're doing? Visit allinchallenge.com if you want more information. Which one are you doing, Greg?
Yeah, no, that is a great cause. Thanks for bringing it up, guys. I think at the end of the day, we all want to help in whatever way we can, but you can only help with other people helping us. So, giving our time is it's not an easy thing, but we completely understand what the outcome is. And this one is a really good one, making sure no kid goes hungry, for example, or Meals on Wheels. There are a couple of others around, but Central Kitchen of America. But, my deal is, playing 18 holes with me at Medalist Golf Club in South Florida with 3 friends, male or female. We'll have lunch at one of my favorite restaurants just before the round or after the round, and I'm going to give everybody a set of Cobra golf clubs. Thank you, Cobra, very much for that. And, going to get them all styled out in Greg Norman Collection clothing, and we're going to give them a Garmin rangefinder as well, just so they can, and they'll obviously have 4.5 hours lessons of me on how to play the game of golf and, picking up on some of their little nuances. So I'm really looking forward to it, because that to me is paying it forward the best way you possibly can for the Americans who are less fortunate.
Greg, it's a great job out of you. Just a quick question. Once we get through this pandemic, because I live pretty close to you, can I just come up there and can we share that day together regardless?
Get out of here. What are you doing?
Greg,
what are you doing? What are you doing?
Absolutely.
Yes!
Come up and have a cocktail. No problem.
Yeah!
Greg, thank you for being on with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. TGIF, have a great weekend. Be safe.
Thank
and
you.
Be smart, everybody. Stay healthy.
Talk to you Monday.
Sir. Stugotz parlays something else about this radio show into his own personal selfish success again next.
An auto policy from State Farm gets you collision coverage. And this radio ad from State Farm gets you coverage of this beloved 90s hit.
I hit a car. I hit a car. I hit a car. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. My agent's gonna help me.
For more coverage, visit statefarm.com.
If you missed any of our interviews, check them out on demand in the Dan Le Batard Show podcast, brought to you by the Capital One Quicksilver Card, earning unlimited 1.5% cash back on every purchase everywhere. Capital One, what's in your wallet? Today on ESPN Daily, Michael Jordan's Final Bulls championship was a huge moment as the Last Dance docuseries on the 97-98 season premieres Sunday. Michael Wilbon shares his memories of MJ and the meaning of the Bulls' legacy. That's ESPN Daily. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast.
We do not let our heroes always be heroes. We generally tend to tackle them pretty good before they die, so that they can't just have these pristine images. But somebody who for a long time has had a pretty damn good one is Oprah Winfrey, and now she's getting dragged down because she is, given platforms to pseudoscientists like Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil, the idea that Dr. Phil, though, is out here giving pandemic advice as if he doesn't understand what kind of doctor he is. It's not that kind of doctor. And so Oprah is just getting dragged just by association. It's not even her work. It's just that she's given platforms to these guys and helped make them, very famous.
I understand that, though. Like, if I worked hard enough and somehow landed with a doctor in my title, a doctor before my name, I would think that I'm an authority on all things medicine, on pandemics. It doesn't matter if I'm a psychologist. I would want to weigh in on everything. So I understand that. Like, even if I was just Dr. J, I'd want to weigh in on everything. I mean, I'm the doc.
There is one doctor, though.
Even if you were Doc Rivers, you just want to weigh in on everything.
Doc Gooden.
There is one doctor, though, that you don't want to mess with, and that's Dr. Horoscope of the Isolation Wrestling Federation. We're going to play a couple of sounds here. Dan, you've been called out, and you have 24 hours to respond. I don't really know what the recourse is, considering it's a non-contact wrestling federation, but they did not take your words lightly. Your threat of just straight up stealing their idea did not go over well. I want to play for you 2 promos. The first coming from Delicious Dwayne Douglas, a.k.a. the Quarantine Dream. He wears a silver metallic Speedo, a matching members-only jacket, and he's rail thin, does not have the body type for this, while he's holding...
Well, he does have the body type for this, because this doesn't end up resulting in any confrontation. This is just wrestling promos with no physical fighting at the end.
Please be careful. That doesn't mean you can't get really hurt while doing this. I believe he has a mango White Claw while he's doing this, and he's not just warning you on behalf of the Quarantine Dream. He's warning you on behalf of the entire IWF stable. Now, I don't want any parts of Eric Ketchup. I don't know about you, but I mean, it's one thing to pick a fight with a Quarantine Dream, being that he's rail thin.
But really, Dick Powers and the Ultimate Warrior. Come on, guys,
Smash Jesus.
Come on, do better.
Well,
and technically, they're not coming for anyone. I mean,
that's true.
Are you kidding? There was a threat, a very clear threat of a no-contact pile driver. I don't want to know what that looks like.
But Mike, you got to tell people this other guy. I actually like this other guy's shtick. I've got to explain to people what he looks like, though, because he is draped in darkness and he's got like some red shawls and he is playing with the camera very well.
This is the most supernatural of all the wrestlers in the IWF. You picked a fight with Dr. Horoscope, who has a voice modulator of some sort, but you can very clearly hear his thick accent.
It is
in that video, there's a flashing graphic of Walter Mercado.
What?
Yes, there is. His god is Walter Mercado. It is such an incredibly lame wrestling character, the Cosmic Horoscope guy.
Dr. Horoscope, Dan. And like I said...
Are you a Taurus?
You've got 24 hours to respond. Otherwise, I'm not really sure what's going to happen to you, but something...
Nothing!
That's right. That is right, Stugotz. Nothing is going to happen except blustery threats.
You can't let somebody call you out like this, Dan. You got to fire back.
All right, we're going to update our Looks Like tournament. We've got some funny ones, and we got a lot of them. They're next.
Currently, we're all living in a time of uncertainty. But one thing that these last few weeks have made crystal clear is that we all need to look out for each other and come together to protect the things we care about, including the planet we all share. That's why Allbirds is on a mission to leave the planet in better shape than they found it. Allbirds make shoes from premium renewable materials, and they just announced the carbon emissions for all of their products before they offset them to 0. Allbirds will be listing the carbon footprint on all shoes moving forward, just like nutrition labels on food, but for your closet. Their shoes' average carbon footprint per product is equal to running 5 loads in the dryer or driving 19 miles in a car. They're committed to lowering their shoes' environmental impact over time, so they leave a better kind of footprint. Allbirds knows we can create a more sustainable future, but only if we hold ourselves accountable. With Allbirds, feel confident knowing you're wearing a shoe that's doing right by your feet and the planet. Learn more about their sustainable practices and find your pair at allbirds.com today.